That sounds strange. I knew that people ended up in prison, but I was totally not prepared. I mean, hundreds of people were killed just because they tried to escape. In 1956, after West Germany declared the Communist Party as illegal, my father decided to go to East Germany. My mother, she was not a communist, but she wanted to live with my father. So she went with him to East Germany, to Dresden. But then, of course, they closed up West Berlin. And my mother had to accept that she was, trapped in the country. That for her was almost unbearable. Every family member, my sister and my brother and me, had to deal with it, personally and silently and secretly. So when I was 14, 15, my parents applied for an exit visa. And it completely messed up our life afterwards. Because the decision, they refused. So now we didn't belong to the society, we were kind of outcast, but we had to stay. That changed my life in many ways. Classmates stopped talking to me. They kicked me out of the sports club. And the teacher taught me, you are traitors. You don't appreciate the system, you have to leave the school. And then she taught me, if you refuse your parents' idea of leaving, then we can bring you into another family. Definitely, I decided to stay with my family. And I had to leave the school after the 10th class. I didn't know how to get through this. So I started dancing because I just wanted to learn basic things. And nobody asked me for my exit visa request thing or called me a traitor or whatever. And I really liked it. 1981, my sister and I took part in the East German Championships. After the ceremony, officials told us that we are now a member of the East German national team, but only if we withdraw from the exit visa request. And so, that was one reason to decide to go, to escape. I was fed up with everything. I wanted to change my life. And I just walked along the street, sure that it will end in front of the wall. You could see the border system from a distance. But there was a house just behind the wall, and I was fascinated because I could see people moving in their flats. We spoke the same language, we were German, but we are living in different worlds, enemies. But that showed how insane this all is. Then I told my mother, I need to escape. There was a rumor in East Germany that it's possible to cross the border successfully from Hungary to Austria. So the plan was to travel to Hungary. But as the train approached the border to Czechoslovakia, suddenly, and that never happened before, this guy ordered to show the return ticket, which I didn't have. And 4 men came into the train with machine guns on. They forced me to take off my clothes, which was strange, but I had to. And they looked into every corner. They cut it through the toothpaste and things like this. And when I took off my jeans, they opened up the seam with a razor blade and found the money. And he asked me, do you want to leave our country legally? That was the only question. After hours, I realized, doesn't matter what I answer, they will ask the same question again and again. I was totally fed up and exhausted, tired, and then I answered on the question, do you want to leave our country? Yes. I was convicted for preparing myself to leave East Germany illegally. So that was pretty much looking like the cell I was imprisoned. In my cell were 4 political prisoners and 5 so-called criminal prisoners. Criminals, they were privileged because they just did something against the law. But the political prisoners, in a hacking order, just close to the bottom, because they acted against the state. They were complete outcasts. But I met another prisoner. He came to me, he told me, my name is Christoph, and I'm also here because of a failed escape attempt. And I'm watching you, you're always looking down, so you have to look up. And he literally changed my point of view. And it was also the beginning of a friendship. I expected spending my full sentence in prison. But Christoph, he was telling things like, I've heard that people from the prison, they make it to the West. I assumed he's totally insane. What was he talking about? But he said in a way like, it's more than just kidding or something. I started thinking because it just sounded beautiful. And it turned out West Germany paid for us. One day in March 1982, I crossed the outdoor court to the factory where we had to do forced labor, and other groups passed by. We weren't allowed to look at them or to say hello or something. But one prisoner, he was whispering, "You are going on transport tomorrow." And I was like, shaking. Somehow, the very next morning, the cell representative came in, and then he said, "We are ready to leave to work. Prisoner Koip, stay." And then they all left. They said bye and things. And I never told the story, actually. They said bye. I stayed, and then I had to pack my personal stuff. Then in 1982, April, I arrived in West Germany. So it happened. I started a new life. I went to school. My parents moved over in 84, my brother in 85. Could have been a happy end, actually. But then my father passed away. He committed suicide. It was too hard to start this new life, which was for me such a remarkable new chance. Then November the 9th, 1989, the wall came down.
Thousands of East Germans came across the border today, perhaps more than 100,000, so many that border police lost count.
There was not a very nice feeling, honestly, because now I have to share the country with the people who sent me to prison, kicked me out of school, kicked me out of the sports club, treated me in the prison, tortured me. I had immediately the impression that I now have to share the country with Stasi and co. again. Then my brother passed away, and the law changed, and you could apply for the Stasi files of close family members.
For East Germans, it is a painful look into an appalling aspect of their past. 1 out of every 80 East Germans collaborated with the secret police as either an agent or a paid informer. The sheer volume of files documents the Stasi's preoccupation with even the most trivial details.
And so around 2009, 2010, I applied for my parents' and my brother's file. when I found out that my brother was part of the state security. That means simply he signed up to spy on people, his friends, and his family. I told my mother that her son was a spy. She told me, how can you believe that? This is just fake news. The lies, complete lies. So she was really, no way to talk to her. And so I was on my own. Again, I didn't know how to get through this. I already started studying history. So then I moved to Berlin. And I got a job offer from Human Rights Center Cottbus, which is my former prison, which is just weird. And here was the factory which produced cameras. Those cameras were exported to West Germany. So they profited from forced labor in the GDR. And now I have my office in the former Stasi headquarters, 2 floors above the former Minister of State Security. The Berlin Wall was right behind the Brandenburg Gate. That here was the border that separated 2 different worlds. I see the people just walking, making selfies, enjoy their life. I think if they know what happened here,